The NBA season is now officially over as we look on to the draft that is fast approaching. While all the eyes are on the NBA draft and subsequently the top picks of the draft, I'm going a different route for this video. We have seen frequently in recent years NBA teams extracting value out of the second round. While there is so much research and data going into the first round and determining who should be going with the first 30 selections, even with all that data, there are still guys that are missed by all of the teams picking in the top 30 that way overachieve their value. Today, we're discussing 5 players who I think could be next. Now, obviously, the second round is still a needle in a haystack, shot in the dark type of thing, and most of these players probably won't pan out. That being said, these 5 guys are players I see having some traits and skill sets that are being overlooked and I think have a very good shot at overachieving their value. Most second rounders don't make it in the league at all, and so even if these guys just become consistent role players, they're still a major steal in the second. And I think some of them have a chance to be even more than that, so let's not waste any more time and get right into it. Honorable mention, Alex Karaban. I wanted to keep this list to 5, but I just couldn't exit Karaban. It's simple, Karaban is not an exciting prospect, he does what he does, and that is knock down threes and plays within himself. While he's unspectacular, his style is highly coveted as an NBA role player, and he almost certainly will be able to play consistent minutes as a rotational shooter and a smart player. If that's something your team wants, he will provide that. A consistent pro rotational role seems likely for Karaban. Richie Saunders. I don't think many people question the talent of Richie Saunders. Most places you look will argue that Saunders has the same talent level of a typical first round player, prototypical guard size at 6'5", crafty off the bounce, roughly a 40% three-point shooter, and an opportunistic defender. He's got everything the scouts look for in a rotational guard. The problem that is frequently cited for Saunders is that he's 25 years old. In the second round, who cares? In the second, it's been established that most you can hope for is a decent role player that doesn't fall out of the league in 2 to 3 years. The age argument holds more weight at the top of the draft when you're shooting for a player that can be a star at 19 and be your franchise player for 15 years. It doesn't hold as much weight late first, early second, and in fact, sometimes that's where you're finding value. Instead of getting Saunders for 15 years, he'll be good for max 10 at best, but if you can get 10 years out of a guy with a 35th pick, you've crushed the second round. And Saunders seems like that type of guy who provides that at the NBA level. He really has a lot to like, and I foresee it being highly likely that he at least is a rotational level guard in the NBA in the coming years. Baba Miller. People have been talking about Baba Miller's traits for like half a decade now in draft circles, and this is finally the year he's actually going to get drafted. He's one of 2 players I'm naming here that could be considered a boomer bust type pick just because his ceiling still could be considered relatively high. He's got some questions that have yet to be answered though, making him a high potential to bust, especially where he's being projected here late first, early second. That being said, he just does a lot of things that make you think a role exists for him as a pro. He can score, he's a good playmaker, he's a good rebounder, he's got defensive upside. He's not great at any one thing, but his jack of all trades skill set alongside his elite measurables and consistent improvement year over year as a player does give some indication that if he was to turn into a consistent, solid producer as a pro, it wouldn't be too surprising. Starter level production is possible for Baba Miller, but so is falling out of the league and heading back to Europe. He's got a wide range, but also a skill set worth gambling on. Braden Smith. You'll note that I have a pattern here of picking old prospects, and that's for good reason. When we talk about steal second rounders, in most cases they're old prospects that had markers of being exceptionally productive at the college level, and some degree of a skill set that is so advanced in a specific niche that people look back and question how those green flags were missed. Take Jalen Brunson as an extreme example. Now, current NBA champion Jalen Brunson. He was considered a second round talent because he was old, small, poor defender, etc. However, the signs were there. National Player of the Year, absurd offensive efficiency and diversity of skill set while still taking a ton of difficult shots now looks clear in hindsight. I'm not saying Braden Smith is Jalen Brunson, no way, shape, or form, but the consensus is he's a clear second rounder going in the 40s, 50s in most mocks for a lot of the same reason as Brunson, and he does have an elite skill set to fall back on, that being his passing and basketball IQ generally. Sometimes even with the red flags, and he does have them, you just take the guy who was a contender for National Player of the Year and all-time assist leader in the history of basketball and say, this guy has shown he can play ball and likely will figure it out again at the next level, even with his challenges. He puts a ton of pressure on defenses with his ability to pull up on jumpers, elite vision as a passer, and while not a great defender, he can read lanes and pull some opportunistic steals. I think he has a great chance at a role as a backup floor general, much like Peyton Pritchard, TJ McConnell, Jose Alvarado, and the like. He does a lot well, and I see a lot of value here. Ugonna Onyenso. I'm surprised Onyenso isn't getting more attention. For all the talk of teams trying to target big-bodied, Wimby stopper type players in the draft, Onyenso, who has some potential in that front, still gets firmly mocked in the second. Onyenso's archetype still fits firmly in the NBA. Great size, great interior finisher, and elite shot blocker. In fact, the best shot blocker in this draft this season. And he's even shown flashes of some shooting potential this past year in college. Overall, I see him as a pretty straightforward pick him and play him role player. You look at what he did when guarding Cameron Boozer in the ACC Championship, holding him to 13 points on an abysmal 3 of 17 shooting, and you can easily project Onyenso projecting as a rotational big who can come in and create some real defensive problems for whoever he's tasked to guard. I think just purely based on his defensive skill set, he can find a place at the pro level. You know what he is, and he likely won't be much more than that, but what he is a valuable archetype that can be used at the pro level. Sergio De La Rey. De La Rey to me is the other guy, other than Bob Miller, to swing for the fences on in the second round, if you're going for a boom or bust type player. If I were to guess any one of these players turned into a legit high-level starter out of this group, De La Rey would be it. He almost certainly has the highest likelihood to bust out of all the players I've mentioned up until this point. He does have his issues. He's a below-average defender, and he does turn the ball over a bit too much. That being said, there are signs that something is there. Number one, he's a 6'6" point guard. That already is a leg up over a lot of the players going in the second. He's got prototypical size that you're looking for. So he's much more of a stash and develop type player, but there is some time for growth, and he has already shown productivity at the pro level against grown men in Spain. In games he's played over 20 minutes, he's posted averages of 15.4 points, 51.3% from 3, 54.4% field goal, 78.4% free throw, alongside 4.6 assists to 2 turnovers a game. He's got great potential as a shooter and a playmaker. He's the type of player a team with a good developmental system selects and turns into a legitimately good NBA player a few years down the line. The player are going to have to wait and see how he turns out, but I like what I see. And with that, we conclude this video. Thanks for watching. I have a couple of draft-related videos to come as we lead into the draft here in a couple weeks. If you did enjoy, make sure to like and subscribe. Thanks again for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Hey, thanks again for watching this video. If you like what you saw, go ahead and click on one of these videos here to see more.